All right, Eric, thanks for coming back again. I know that your campaign is wrapping up. So as we record this, there's 6 days left. I will probably air this with 5 or 4 days left. But I saw that you got this Zestworld thing going, and I wanted to
Yeah,
talk to you about that. And I wanted to talk to you just a little bit more about the Arc Athena campaign as it
sure.
closes out. Tell us about, let me bring it up here. That's not Zestworld. Here we go. Zestworld.
Yeah.
What is Zestworld? How are you connected to it? And why do people need to sign up for this?
Absolutely. So one of the things that we'd identified, and I think you'd run into a similar set of challenges, is that as publishers and as printers, we optimize for regions of the world that we know a good portion of our fan base sort of support our campaigns from, right? Which in effect sort of like keeps the rest of the world out because it doesn't to ship to their region would be so cost ineffective. It's almost like charging 3x 4x for ship just to get it to them. So I'd gotten feedback before about like, well, if that's the case, then why don't you find a way to distribute Arc Athena on a digital level? Now I'd seen a whole lot of campaigns where they'd offered PDFs, PDF copies to at a certain tier, but I didn't think that was optimal. For whatever reason, it never really sat well with me. So I was trying to find a way, or at least I was coming up with plans like, well, how do I do this so that, I can distribute this digitally, and so that those people who are in service from those regions of the world where it wouldn't be too cost effective, they can get their hands on the book and read it as well. Well, along came Zestworld, and they said, hey, Eric, what would you think about jumping onto our platform, offering up Arc Athena 1 through 6, the entire mini series, and put it in such a way that it's subscription based, similar to how Substack did it. Now, my reservations with them was that Substack really is more of a newsletter slash writing centric platform. And so I wasn't really convinced that that would be ideal, because in a handful of the times that Substack had reached out to other creators, to comic book creators to go onto their platform, they left them to sort of come up with their own way of how to deliver a graphic experience, and I didn't think that was I don't think there was an elegant solve behind that. But going into Zestworld, they're what do you call it? They're programmers, and the people who set up the graphics platform showed me the early work. I mean, this was a conversation that had been going on for about easily 8 months plus now. And I've been there through multiple stages, multiple iterations of what it would be like to have my stuff on their platform. And it's, I think, really set up to be, graphics friendly, right? Like pages friendly. And so when they approached me, they solved the problem of me finding a way to get it to people who could not afford to have a physical copy in their hand, but still want to be able to support me. So I think if there is a leading cause, if there is a leading motivation for people to go on Zestworld and subscribe, that would be near the top of the list, which is to say, hey, we're going to be releasing the book in 5-page increments every other week. In the in-between weeks, I'm going to be releasing all the behind-the-scenes stuff that it took to get that particular issue out the door throughout the entire miniseries. So I think it's well worth. Some of the stuff has never seen light of day, neither in my social media nor in the supplementary area of the books themselves.
Very cool. Yeah. And on a related note, in my hand here,
Yeah.
a bunch of receipts. I went to the UPS store today, and I sent a package to Australia. The cheapest I could get is $130.61.
There you go.
To one guy. Let's see what the next one is. Okay, that's United States. Netherlands, $135.42.
Yes. Yes. It's really sobering. It's really sobering.
One more. Let's see. United States. Here we go. Germany. $109.42.
There you go. It's you want to talk about unapproachable, right? That is it. And I think when people, I don't know if you've had the same experience, Doug. You've sent out your fair share of books. You've interacted with your fan base and people who Maybe they've seen that you don't necessarily ship to their corner of the world, but the feedback at least the spirit of the feedback that I'm getting is like, how come I can't get my hands on it? And I said, you can, but it's going to cost, it's going to be very expensive. And they're really surprised. You just said three numbers right now that cross the $100 threshold, right? And they're really surprised by that. They're like, whoa, why is it so much? And a handful of times behind the scenes, people are like, oh, I don't know if they're taking advantage of the shipping and handling charges. And I'm like, no, I promise you that I'm not. And people have gotten so accustomed to what Amazon has set up for them. That's level of expectation where they click a button. Not only will it get there very cost effectively, very cheaply, I might say, but it might even get there by the next day. And, as a small business owner, as an independent publisher, we don't have access to that infrastructure. So, the three numbers that you read off to regions of the world that Iconic doesn't typically ship to, there's a reason why. And that's it right there. Those are perfect examples. Thank you for bringing those up.
Yeah, I was talking to one of those customers, and I was like, "Listen, here's the deal." Because he's like, I'm a Catholic guy from X country. I heard about you. Actually, it was through our last interviews, the first and second part on the YouTube channel.
Sure.
And he's like, I'm from this country, and I'd be really interested in getting your book. And I was like, okay, but here's the deal. It's like it's pretty expensive for shipping, but because you mentioned it this way, I will charge you this for these books, soft covers and hard covers. He actually had a pretty big order. And then I was like, I won't charge you for the shipping. I will show you the receipt and you can pay whatever you want.
You're a good man.
Consider it a tip. And he's like, no, I want to pay the whole thing. Sure. And I was like, we'll see. But you don't have to, but I'm going to show you the receipt.
Good man. You're a good man.
So most of the people, they actually pay like the full price.
Sure.
But like you said, a lot of the readers, they really think that it's going to be about $20 or $25 for shipping.
Right.
And it's like, no, especially in a post-pandemic world,
correct,
it's not going to be that.
Right. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So again, that's the advantage of having Zestworld notched on the belt, is because if you're not too hung up on having a physical copy in hand, and if you are really sort of, if you are a supporter of mine, if you're a fan of my work, and you're intrigued by the concept that is Arc Athena, as I've seen, as I've sort of like shown it around, or people, if as a potential buyer, you've seen reviews of it online, please go to Zestworld, sign up for the newsletter, sign up for the subscription. It's going to be worth your while. I'm definitely putting a ton of effort and energy into making sure that you are not going to walk away going like, man, I wish I got that. I wish I got that physical book instead. It's going to be a great sell.
Well, I'm looking at the Art Creators page and I see Peter J. Tomasi. That's a big plus for me. When he was doing the Super Sons books, and I think he was doing some of the Superman for a while. That was when I finally started to get into DC. I was very, very happy with what he was doing. And then without getting into all the details, Bendis and all this, he comes along and everything changes. And I was like, I'm out.
Yep.
But seeing Tomasi's name on there, thumbs up.
Super encouraging. Yeah. I think they got a pretty decent sort of snapshot of a bunch of creators who not only have a pretty decent pedigree in the comic book industry, but also have great stories to tell. So if you look across the list, the lineup that they have, I think it's a pretty diversified group of subject matters that everybody is trying to cover. So it's encouraging for me.
When will Zestworld exit the beta stage of development, or is it? I don't know enough about tech to know, like, does it even really matter that much? But like, essentially, when are they going to be like full steam ahead?
I think it's going to be the launch, which was last Monday, was basically just to stress test all the little features that were involved in either signing up for a newsletter or subscribing at the different tiers and the sort of all the perks that you get at those tiers. And then they're going to, I think they've had a big sort of company conference just to talk about all the things that they've run into, both good and bad, optimize the good, plus 10 the good, and then find a way to sort of curb the bad and patch it as they go. But in as far as like when you get out of that beta phase, I'm not exactly sure. I'm sure if you go and follow the Zestworld account in both Twitter and on Instagram, they'll happy to. I think they're going to update you pretty quickly about that.
Cool. All right. Well, moving on to your actual Dawn of Monsters campaign. So you have 6 days left. If this was a track and field race, it's a 1,600-meter race. You're essentially on that final lap, the bell lap, less than 400 meters to go. You have about 300 meters to go. That's where people starting to pick it up. What is your final 300-meter sprint pitch to anybody that is listening right now as you're nearing the finish line?
That is a great question for which I do not have a good answer. It is simply to say, I really hope that if you were there for book one, or if you were there for book one, that book two will not let you down. And if you were not there for book one, please go to iconiccomics.com, pick yourself up a copy, and then if you so choose, you come back and get book two, because this thing is nonstop, right? It's going to go 6 issues. I'm in it for the marathon, clearly, because I decided to draw all the pages up front with the final and 6th issue. I'm working on it now. As soon as you and I get off this call, I'm going to go right back to it. I don't have too much weekend time off. And I hope that my enthusiasm and more importantly, the authentic nature and by which I am so enthusiastic about this project shows through. So please, if you have the opportunity to, support the campaign.
Cool. I think that's a really good pitch, but it actually lends itself. This is a good sort of segue to something I was thinking about. I was like, I got to word this carefully. So with me, I don't really like crowdfunding campaigns that much. Like, don't do them. But I was thinking, in terms of your promotion, you've had a light footprint was what I was thinking of in terms of, your YouTube channel and the videos. I think you did one 3 weeks. It looks like 3 weeks ago. You're obviously on Twitter. You're doing cool things on Twitter. I see this not stop motion. Is that right? The time lapse sort of picture here, which is very, very cool. You do stuff like this, but for the most part, you're not doing this sort of, hello, my baby, hello, my honey, hello, my ragtime girl. You're not doing that sort of thing. How do you strike that balance between, like, for me, it's like, I got a book, it's good, you want it, I really want to sell it to you, but I'm not going to beg you, but also realize, like, no, if you're not going to be your strongest, most ardent advocate for your work, then who else is going to do it? Nobody's going to, really nobody's else going to do it. So you have to. How do you strike that balance, or what is the sort of idea, your philosophy behind how you promote your projects?
I think that's great. I think there's 2 parts, right? One is let's talk about that second part first, which is to say, like, if you're not going to be the person that's out there sort of, carnival barking your dog, your carnival barking your product, then nobody's going to do it for you. And I'm a huge proponent of that. I want to be the person to tell you how awesome it is, how great it is. But it's also, and this goes to the first part, which is I have an understanding of myself and what I'm capable of doing, right? And one of my bigger fears, especially now that as an independent publisher, an independent creator, you kind of have to let people into your sort of process, and a little bit closer than, let's say, if I were working for a mainstream book in which those IPs effectively sell themselves, right? You give them insight, within arm's length. And I know that if I do something out of character for me, it won't come off very authentic, right? It won't come off true to me. It would just come off because, let's say I saw somebody else out there doing something that I've perceived to be, whoa, that's very successful. That really captures the imagination and gets the hype going and yada, yada, yada. Like, but if that's not within me and I tried it, I would just fall flat in my face, and I think people would be able to see it. So, yes, I do believe in promoting my book, making sure that there's awareness for my book, reaching out to as many people as I can. I'm very grateful for you for bringing me on multiple times. So, but I have to do it in such a way that I feel comfortable about promoting my projects, right? And I don't think there's a line that I can go to and more importantly, a line that I could cross if it doesn't feel very good to me, if it doesn't feel very authentic to me.
Yeah, I was wondering, it was one of those things where it's like, how much of the way you promote is necessity because you literally have a full-time job that
Yeah,
you're working all the time, and then how much
for
of
sure.
it is desire. And for myself, I know that at some point in time, I'll probably go back to crowdfunding, probably for volume 4 of Soul
Mm,
Finder.
mm,
And it's just one of those things where for me, it's like, man, uh, I feel like, it's like I like promoting the book on many levels, but at the same time, uh, with the news cycles and other things to talk about, it's like I just don't like to be out there every
sure.
single day,
I
especially
agree.
live streams,
I agree.
and it's tough. So
It is. I mean, and it's a challenge if you look at it from the perspective of a multiple person race, right? Which is to say, hey, I'm competing against X, Y, and Z. I think there's validity to that. I think there's something to glom away, to take away from that and say, hey, I think I can leverage that to my advantage. But for me, I always look at it as a one man race and it's a marathon, right? So I can only be accountable to myself. I can only be as accommodating to myself in the speed that I go. And I have, similar to you, I believe in the projects that we're doing. And so I think one of the things, I don't know if people understand how important and critical this is. And you kind of signed it, you just now, you just kind of just threw it out there as if it's typical or normal, which is you said, oh, for volume 4, I might go crowdfunding. And you're like, do you know how many people never get to volume 4 who've never even gotten that far in their sort of crowdfunding efforts or their independent publishing efforts? That should not be diminished ever, ever, ever. So I think the way if there is a win, category, if there is a win column, and you and I have spoken about it, offline, which is to say, we have to be consistent. We just have to keep putting the book out there so that we know if we believe in the project, we suspect the people who are super hardcore believing in that project, they do a lot of the legwork for us. And consistency solves so many problems, right? We don't wait a year and a half, 2 years to release our next book. We wait, X is short. In contrast, a significantly shorter amount of time. So consistency is key, in my opinion. Slow and steady.
yeah, I've found that as once people know, oh, this guy's serious, he's not going away. Even the people that don't like the books,
Yes.
like, this guy won't go away. He keeps
Right.
coming back. He's the most
Right.
annoying person ever. The people that don't like you or whatever, or me or whatever.
Right.
But the people that like the books, they're like, no, I know I'm gonna have to wait a little bit, but at some point in time, he's coming back, and I can see through his videos on Twitter feed and Instagram, there is incremental progress being made. It
Yes.
keeps getting
Yes.
closer and closer and closer and closer to completion. So
Hmm.
there's no reason why I have to bail on supporting this particular guy.
Yeah,
So
and not only that, they see people like in the world of crowdfunding and indie publishing, what people look at is track record, right? People might just look at the crowdfunding. There's some instances in which people take a look at that number on crowdfunding, like, oh, I didn't make a ton of money, blah blah blah. Like, that to me, I'm taking that off of the table. What I'm looking at is book 4, book 5, and book 6. And you just said it right now. You're like, hey, I'm on volume 4. And holy cow, man, that's amazing, right? I want to be in the company of people who are doing it consistently. And so I don't think that should be diminished at all. I don't think that should just be like, oh, yeah, I did a volume 4. I'm like, no, you did volume 4. There's some people who can't even say that.
anyway, it's been great talking to you again. Like I said, but by the time this airs, I think there'll probably be 5 or 4 days left on your campaign. Anyone who's watching right now, check out Arc Athena, Dawn of Monsters before it's gone. There will be, if you didn't get the first issue, you can get the bundle package for 1 and 2. And then
Yep.
obviously probably sooner rather than later, I know Eric's got the third one coming down the line. All right, Eric. Well, one last thing I forgot to mention. I want to make sure people know to go to the Iconic Comics website itself to check out the Arc Athena pages, as well as the Facebook page. They can check out Arc Athena updates on here as well. Thanks again for everything. And thanks again to everyone who's tuning into this. And I'll see you guys later. See you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.